Hello, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed our Zoom meeting, so welcome back. Once again, I'm April Strelinger, if perhaps you missed our Zoom meeting, and this is At Home with Coca. Today, we're going to be making two recipes, cranberry brie bites and roasted ratatouille tartines. They sound very fancy, but I promise they're easy, they're accessible, and most of all, we just want you to have fun. We're all kind of stuck at home, and now's the time to grab your partner, grab your kids, grab your drink, and join me. Our first recipe that we'll be doing today is grilled or roasted ratatouille tartines. And like I said, it has a really fancy name, but tartine actually just means topped toast. And the French do it right. They make everything sound a little fancy, a little elevated. But if you've made avocado toast before, I promise you'll have no problem with this. So the first thing that I do, although we might have gone over this on the Zoom call, the first thing I want to do is reread the recipe. You'd be surprised how many people start cooking and actually don't have the recipe read. So we will read it. Always keep your recipe nearby. There's no shame in it. Besides, you're cooking at home with your loved ones, so I promise no one's going to judge you. So first we will need 3/4 of a cup of cannellini beans, some olive oil for the roasting, about 3 to 4 tablespoons. We'll need a clove of garlic, and I will teach you a cool way to peel garlic and smash it. Some lemon zested, salt and pepper, a small loaf of ciabatta or sourdough or any awesome crusty bread that you have, zucchini, eggplant, red pepper, goat cheese, about 1 ounce, sun-dried tomatoes, about 1/4 of a cup, basil, oregano, my favorite, fresh rosemary. I love the aromatics on it. And then we're set. So the first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 425 degrees. Luckily, through the magic of pre-taping, we have already set our oven. It's already preheated, but if you haven't, take a second, pause me, and go preheat your oven to 425 degrees. Next, we'll get to chopping the vegetables. Now, the best thing to do for chopping a vegetable is to get your cutting board out. I like to actually add a towel underneath my cutting board because it helps stabilize things a little better. That way, if maybe you're new to cutting things, or there's a lot of people cutting things, or maybe even little guys cutting things, it helps the cutting board stay nice and stable. So once you have that, then you just get to, we're going to be using all of these vegetables. Even though we might not be using all of the roasted ones for the tartines, you'll have wonderful roasted vegetables to use as leftovers, so enjoy. Once again, if you're working in the kitchen with people that perhaps aren't used to chopping, the best way that I teach people how to chop is to use the bear claw method. So it's like, you're like, rawr, but you hold your food like that. And it's really good because it keeps the knife away from your fingers. I have little kids myself, and I'm always yelling at them to bear claw. So that's my holiday gift to you, is now that you can yell bear claw at your kids if you'd like.
The eggplant is going to be cut in slightly bigger pieces than the zucchini, and that's because as the eggplant cooks, it actually cooks down and shrinks, so they will all be uniform in size. But this eggplant we're cutting to about 1 inch or 1.5 inches in size. While cutting your red pepper, you want to de-seed and get rid of those inside pepper ribs. They're just really pithy and they don't have a lot of taste. That way you can just slice and chop them into about 1/2-inch pieces, and they will be really juicy and amazing.
Once all our vegetables are chopped, you want to get 2 cookie sheets. You can line them with parchment. It helps the cleanup. And you want to put the peppers and the zucchini on one tray and the eggplant on the other tray. That's because the eggplant is actually going to cook at a different rate than the peppers and the zucchini. Also, the eggplant has more water. That's why it's also very important when we are cooking with the eggplant that we don't salt it first. A good tip with eggplant is you always want to salt it after it's cooked. Otherwise, you get really mushy eggplant. So, you are going to add the vegetables onto the parchment. You can measure out about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half for each set of vegetables, or you can just kind of eyeball it, a nice glug of olive oil. Then we're going to take the fresh rosemary sprig and split it between both of the pans. Taking time to remember that this is a fresh herb, so it's going to be a little lighter tasting than dried rosemary, but rosemary does still have a really strong taste. So if you're someone that maybe isn't in love with the taste of rosemary, I recommend you just add as much as you think that you'll like. But rosemary is a great holiday aromatic, and it's French, and it actually is quite lovely. So definitely make sure to add a little bit of rosemary. Once you've added the rosemary, go ahead and add pepper to each. And like I said before, you just want to salt the red pepper and zucchini plate. This is about a 1/2 teaspoon, and you can eyeball it or you can measure it out. Then you want to just, in the words of one of my favorite chefs, Jamie Oliver, you just want to get in there with your hands and just make sure that all the vegetables are coated with the olive oil and that they're on a nice, flat, not overlapping line on the parchment. And we'll do the same with the eggplant. And I wish that we had smell-o-vision, although you are cooking with me, because this smells magnificent already. I'm very excited about this. Now, if you'll notice with this, I did cut the eggplant in a little bit bigger bites, and that's because it shrinks significantly when you cook it. And although we want sort of bite-sized 1/2-inch pieces with everything, sometimes the eggplant can just wither away if you bake it at such a high temperature and you don't cut it a little bigger. From here, it's time to add it to the oven. We're going to add it to the oven for about 15 minutes. The eggplant might take a little longer, but we'll check on everything as it's roasting for about 15 minutes. While the vegetables are roasting in the oven, now is when we make the white bean puree. It's sort of the staple that holds everything it's the glue that holds everything to the bread. So the first thing you want to do is get 1 clove of garlic. It's kind of chef's choice. This little tiny clove of garlic would not serve me very well. I am Italian, so give me the biggest clove of garlic. It makes me the happiest. Also, you know, in the times that we're in, garlic is an antimicrobial. So the more garlic, just think about the more you're actually keeping yourself safe by adding a little extra immune boosting to your white bean puree. And the garlic just has to be smashed. Now you're going to add that to your food processor. Next, we're going to add 3/4 cup of white cannellini beans. Then we're going to do an entire zest of lemon. And the trick with zesting a lemon is to make sure that you're just getting the yellow. Don't get any of the white. The white is the bitter part. We want a wonderful aromatic smell and taste of lemon when we bite into those creamy beans, and we don't want any bitterness. Great. Once your lemon is zested, we're also going to add some salt and pepper to taste. And a nice hefty crack of black pepper. Finally, you're going to add a tablespoon of hot water to all this. It'll just help it all get together. And then you want to pulse it till it's nice and smooth. You want a nice thick consistency, and depending on the type of canned beans that you have, you might want to add a little extra water to help with the smoothness. The next thing you want to do when you have the puree nice and silky is you want to try it. It's important to try your food to see if it needs more salt or pepper. The last thing you want to do is not try something and then plate it up and go, ooh man, I really wish that had more salt and pepper. So try it. That's actually quite lovely. I will say it probably needs a little bit more salt. And if you have olive oil on hand, I'm actually going to add just a little bit of olive oil to add to the silkiness of this bean mixture. Next, we're going to prepare the bread. And I know in the recipe it does say to grill the bread, but that's not always easy if you don't have a stovetop grill or you don't have your grill going in your backyard in this marvelous St. Louis December weather. So have no fear, you can always broil it. But in case you do have a cooktop grill, this is a great way of grilling your bread. It adds those wonderful charry grill marks to everything, and I think it makes it taste a little better and it looks fantastic. Depending on how many people you are cooking for, it might just be you and a partner, it might be you and your entire family. Cut the bread to the pieces that you think that they would like. This is completely up to you. Now it's time to grill the bread. And like I said, if you don't have a grill at home, a tabletop grill at home, don't worry about it. You can do this in the broiler. You do the same thing by putting olive oil on the bread, placing them on a cookie sheet, and watching it. Don't leave the broiler on unattended with bread in there. You'll have a mess. But watch it, and you just want to heat the bread and to let the olive oil soak in with the heat, and you can broil it like that. Otherwise, if you do have a grill going, you want to put the bread olive oil side down on the flame. And with this, you really are looking to just create lovely char marks. It'll add a little flavor to the bread, but you want to make sure that they don't burn. So check them from time to time and adjust your heat as needed. After that additional 5 minutes, it looks like the veggies are ready to pull from the oven. And when they're ready, they'll be nice and roasty and beautiful, just like that. That's right. We'll go ahead and add the eggplant to the peppers and zucchini. And give them a nice stir. Now from here, it is important to go ahead and taste it again. They might be kind of hot, but oh, these actually don't need anything. They actually have a really great rosemary taste. There's enough salt. We'll be finishing it with a bit of salt, so I don't think we need any more. They're perfect. And now we're ready to assemble the tartines. So it's very simple. What we're going to do is we are going to take our bean puree and top it on top of the grilled toasts. Then we're going to add our wonderful roasted ratatouille. Then we're going to add some sun-dried tomatoes, some amazing goat cheese, which is my favorite, and salt and pepper it, a little bit of spice, and maybe a fresh sprig or two of rosemary just for beautiful presentation. And we're finished. So we have some amazing roasted vegetable ratatouille tartines. They look absolutely amazing. And I must say, if this is what you're having for dinner, even though it's an appetizer, you've got your vegetables, you've got some protein. This looks like an amazing dinner as well. And through the magic of movies, we actually cleaned up everything. I hope that you have a magic of movie at your house, maybe some elves that can clean some dishes while you're plating up your magnificent ratatouille. If not, enjoy your ratatouille, come back and do the dishes. Next, we'll be doing cranberry brie bites. Hi, welcome back. Now to start on our cranberry brie bites. And this gets me really excited because we get to use those really awesome tart pans that were in your crate. So first you are going to need a 12-ounce bag of cranberries rinsed and picked through. Pick out any wrinkly or perhaps unsightly cranberries and just go ahead and toss or compost them. Then we will need 3/4 of a cup of water, 1 orange that we're going to zest, and we are going to juice, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, and some vanilla extract. Then to actually make the pastries themselves, we are going to need some puff pastry, some brie, the cranberry sauce that we will be making, 1/4 of a cup of chopped pecans, and the most amazing holiday herb, some more rosemary for garnish. It's beautiful. So let's get started on the cranberry sauce. Now, cranberry sauce can be kind of daunting if you've never made it before. It just seems like it's something that you wouldn't maybe always make. But the cool thing is that you don't have to rely on canned cranberries. Actually, the sauce is really very simple to make. To make the cranberry sauce, we're going to take our 12-ounce bag of cranberries and reserve about a half a cup so that we can add them in a little later for texture. We're going to put them in a heavy bottom saucepan over the stove. Then we are going to add in 3/4 of a cup of water. We're going to zest our orange. Always make sure that you zest your orange first before you cut it, before you juice it, because you want the orange to be as firm as possible while you're getting it zested. And once again, it's always a good idea to look and make sure what you're doing when you're zesting the orange so that you're not getting that white pith. That white pith is going to make things bitter. So we just want that beautiful orange zest. That's where the orange oils are. And it really adds some fantastic aromatics to it. The cool thing about cranberry sauce is you can really customize it to fit your taste. So if you've never made cranberry sauce before, it really is just cranberries, water, sugar, and then whatever else you want to throw in there. So go ahead, if you're doing this and you're feeling a little culinarily adventurous, you can add in a cinnamon stick, you can add in a knob of ginger, you can even, if you're drinking wine, you can even add in a little bit of red wine. That's always good. I've also put Prosecco in it if you're really just boozing up your cranberry sauce. Once we've done that, then we want to go ahead and juice the orange. So once you have squeezed the orange, you should probably have about 1/4 of a cup of orange juice, and that's great. So you can go ahead and set that to the side, and then in your sauce pot, you're going to add some brown sugar. And add in your orange juice. Once you've added everything into the pot, then go ahead and turn your stove on to medium heat to start and bring it to a nice simmer. It's going to simmer for about 15 minutes. And go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and give it a stir. After about 10 minutes, the cranberries all should burst. Go ahead and get your spoon in there and just kind of help a few of them along, kind of smashing them. And then now is the time when you add those other fresh cranberries that you reserved. We're going to pop it back onto medium heat for about another 10 minutes, and the sauce will start to thicken and become magnificent. While your cranberry sauce is cooking, you can start to assemble things for the tarts themselves. You're going to need a lightly floured surface so that you can add the puff pastry. The key to the puff pastry is, and I think there was a note when you receive the crate, is that you want to make sure that the puff pastry is not frozen and not totally refrigerated. You almost want to bring it to room temperature so that it's really easy to work with. That's the key to puff pastry. You're going to lightly grease your tart pans, and these are adorable. I love them so much. I can't wait to make many different things in these tart pans, and they're yours to keep, so feel free to get as adventurous as you want with these tart pans. I'm thinking little mini pumpkin pies. I'm thinking maybe some salted caramel brownies in a tart pan. These are fun, and the presentation of these are going to be great. Now, that being said, you are going to have leftovers. This recipe is yes, enough for 2, but you will have leftovers, and you only have 2 tart pans. So you can do the exact same thing that you're doing with the tart pans, just with muffin tins. So if you have a muffin tin and you want to grab that, go ahead and grab that. But for the sake and the magic of this beautiful holiday at home, I'm just going to do the tart tins. Next, you want to cut your puff pastry so it's about the size of the tart pan. And the easiest way to do that is to take your tart pan and just use it like a cookie cutter. And if you need to cut around it, you certainly can. Pop the bottom back on. Set your puff pastry in and just kind of bring it up the sides a little bit so it looks like that. And then do the same for the next one. Pop the bottom out, use it like a cookie cutter. Cut around it if needed. And do the same, you're just gonna press a little onto the sides. So you have these great, already ready mini tart pans. Before we bake them though, we do wanna make sure that we prick them with a fork a couple times because puff pastry does get puffy, but we want to knock a little bit of the air out of that so that they're not just muffins in a tart pan and then you can't top them. I wish you guys could hear the cranberries popping in the background. They sound great. The sauce is simmering and we will get ready to bake and assemble in just a few moments. Once your cranberry sauce has had a little time off the burner to cool and become this beautiful gelatinous cranberry sauce that you probably are familiar with, you want to take your muffin tins and get them ready. We're going to fill them and then we're going to put them in the oven. So the first thing you want to do is, depending on what kind of brie you have, sometimes there's paper around it. Please don't cut the paper and cook the brie with the paper on. I promise it's not going to be a great part of your holiday meal. Then if you do have these cute little rounds, go ahead and cut them in half. And cube them up. Now, if you read the recipe with me, you know that this brie has been frozen, put in the freezer for about 15 minutes to make sure that it has a good consistency so that you can actually cut it. Obviously, brie is really soft. If you just went at it, even with the refrigerated brie, you might not be able to cut it very well. It might just be goo. From here, you're just gonna set a few cubes in the bottom of the tart pan, and actually I'm going to use all of them. It's the holidays, we're being decadent, it's perfectly fine. So you're going to take those. Next, you want to top about 2 tablespoons or so with the cranberry sauce over the brie. It looks absolutely beautiful. I don't know about you, but I could eat cranberries all times of the year, not just the holidays. I think they're magnificent and tart and a little sweet, and I think they go with so many things. And then we want to top with your chopped pecans. And these are going to get nice and toasty when you bake everything. So make sure that you have raw pecans and not already roasted pecans. Just kind of sprinkle them on and they're ready to go in the oven. Your oven should be preheated to 375 degrees, and go ahead and pop them in once they are ready. Great. Once you have everything in the oven, go ahead and set your timer for about 15 minutes. Once you're at 15 minutes, then you can check it to see if that puff pastry has gotten golden and bubbly, and also that the brie is melted all the way. That way, if you need to pop it in for another 5 minutes after that, you certainly can. So it's been more around 20 minutes. What you're looking for is for everything to be melty and golden and beautiful. And once they're there, you want to have a plate nearby and to gently be able to tip these very hot tart pans onto a plate. And oh my goodness, pick it up and smell it. The roasted nuts and the brie, it is aromatic heaven. From here, you're going to want to let the tart pans cool a little bit before you take them out. And while you're waiting, you can definitely garnish it. The rosemary is so beautiful. It just adds a little holiday lovely when you garnish. And you know, something that I do with my family that's really fun, especially if you're doing this with just 2 people, see who can make it aesthetically the most beautiful. Have fun with the rosemary, and then, you know, see how creative you can get. Great. Now we've plated everything up. I hope maybe you've had fun playing a game on who can make their tartine or their cranberry brie bite the most aesthetically pleasing. And I hope your cocktail glass is also as empty as mine is, and that you've had so much fun learning with me today and working on some amazing holiday appetizers, some grilled ratatouille tartine and some cranberry brie bites. And from Coco's Kitchen to yours, I hope that you have a happy and healthy holiday season. Once again, I'm April Strelinger, and come back for our entree section. Until then, take care.